The sun was just rising over the city of Ouagadougou. Birds flew across the bright orange sky. The people were already waking up and getting ready for their day. But inside the presidential office, President Ibrahim Traoré sat quietly at his desk, reading a secret report that had just arrived. The report came from a trusted security officer named Captain Soro. It spoke about something very strange. A large cargo ship called the Golden Arrow had been spotted at the coast of West Africa. It was not listed in any trading records. No one knew where it came from or what it carried. But one thing was clear: the ship was suspicious. Captain Soro believed the ship was carrying illegal gold stolen from the mines of Burkina Faso. Gold was taken by corrupt businessmen who had secretly worked with foreign smugglers. They didn't want the world to know. They wanted to sell the gold and make billions of francs, while the poor miners remained hungry and hopeless. President Traoré's hands clenched. He could not allow this to happen. Burkina Faso had been robbed. For too long, its people had suffered. Its resources had been stolen and sold. But now things had changed. A new day had come. And this president would not stay silent. He picked up the red phone and called Captain Soro. "Prepare a team. I want eyes on that ship. Don't approach it yet. Watch and wait. I'll handle the rest." He said, "Yes, Mr. President," Soro replied with strength in his voice. 2 hours later, in a secret military office near the coast, a group of intelligence officers studied maps and satellite images. The Golden Arrow was hiding near an old port in a neighboring country. The ship had turned off its lights and its tracking device. That meant one thing: they didn't want to be found. A young officer named Private Joseph raised his hand. "If I may speak," he said. "Go ahead, Captain," Soro answered. "The gold is likely hidden inside metal containers, but we can't prove anything unless we board the ship." Captain Soro nodded. "Then we must find a way to do that without raising alarm." Meanwhile, President Traoré called an emergency meeting. Only a few people were invited: his top generals, the head of customs, and a trusted journalist named Mariam. "Mariam," the president said, "the people need to know what's happening, but not yet. If we move too fast, the smugglers might run away." Mariam understood. She had always reported the truth. She had written about how gold mining destroyed the land, and how foreign companies made millions while villagers had no food. She promised to be ready. Back at the coast, the military team came up with a plan. 3 brave officers would go undercover as port workers. They would board the ship and plant small cameras in hidden corners. Then they would report what they saw. That night, under a moonless sky, the operation began. Disguised in dirty clothes, the officers approached the ship. They acted like they were just there to check pipes and tanks. The guards on the ship looked at them with suspicion. "Who sent you?" "ONAF," the guards asked. Supervisor Musa replied. Officer Karim, using a fake name, said the ship needs to be checked before morning. The guards looked at each other, then let them pass. Inside the ship, the officers worked quickly, placed cameras behind walls and under boxes. What they found shocked them. There were dozens of containers, each filled with gold bars, jewelry, and dust. The gold was not marked. There were no legal documents. It was stolen. They took photos, filmed videos, and sent the evidence back to Captain Soro. Within minutes, Captain Soro called the president. "Mr. President, it's worse than we thought. The entire ship is filled with stolen gold." There was silence on the line. Then the president replied, "Prepare for Operation Golden Justice." Early the next morning, the country woke up to the sound of military jets flying over the capital. Tanks rolled through the streets, but there was no war, no fear, only hope. President Traoré went live on national television. "My fellow Burkina Faso," he began, "for our land has been stolen, our people have suffered, but today we take a stand. A ship carrying our gold has been found, and we are taking it back." People clapped and shouted with joy. At nightfall, the team moved into position. The Golden Arrow sat silently at the dock. Lights were dim. Guards stood lazily, smoking and chatting. They had no idea that their secrets were already exposed. From their patrol boat, the Burkina Faso soldiers prepared quietly. This time, they didn't need to sneak in as fake workers. They had real evidence to know. Their mission was not to spy. It was to seize the stolen gold and arrest everyone involved. Captain Soro gave the command. Let's move in. No need to hide. We have the truth on our side. One by one, the officers climbed aboard with full authority. Drop your weapons and stand down, an officer shouted. The smugglers looked confused. Some ran, others froze. Captain Soro held up a folder. This is a legal warrant issued by the government of Burkina Faso. You are all under arrest for smuggling and theft. Back in Ouagadougou, the atmosphere was filled with celebration. Children danced in the streets. Women sang songs of victory. Even in the villages, people gathered under mango trees listening to the radio, talking about how their president had taken back what belonged to them. But inside the presidential palace, President Ibrahim Traoré was not celebrating. He sat in a quiet room, staring at a long list of names. Each name on the paper belonged to someone powerful. Businessmen, former ministers, foreign agents, and even officers in high places. They were all connected to the gold smuggling case. He sighed deeply. I knew corruption was deep, he said to his advisor, but I didn't expect it to reach this far. The advisor, a loyal man named Mr. Bao, leaned forward. Sir, if we go after these people, it may shake the whole region. Some of them are friends with presidents, others are tied to international banks. President Traoré looked him in the eye. Let it shake. Let the world know we are not afraid. While the president prepared his next steps, far away in a tall glass building in Europe, a secret meeting was taking place. 5 men and 1 woman sat around a long table. They all wore expensive suits. On the screen before them was the news. Of the sea ship, we lost billions, said one man angrily. Now this Troboy is making us look weak, said another. He must be stopped. A woman with sharp eyes tapped her fingers on the table. We don't need bullets. We need stories. What do you mean? Someone asked. We pay some journalist to say he's corrupt, spread lies. We create panic in his country. People will turn against him, another man added. And we stop all aid and trade. Let his country feel pressure. They all agreed. Their mission had begun to destroy President Ibrahim Traoré's image. Within days, fake news began to spread online. Is Traoré hiding the gold? Sources say the gold will never reach the people. Burkina Faso faces economic crises after bold move. Miriam, the trusted journalist in Burkina Faso, was shocked when she saw the false headlines. These are lies, she shouted in the newsroom. One of her colleagues looked nervous. They're paying some of our friends to share these stories. Even some. Rod stations are accepting money. Mayim rushed to the presidential palace. Mr. President, she said, the world is turning the truth upside down. They are calling you a thief. President Traoré nodded. I expected this, but we will not reply with noise. We'll reply with action. The next day, he called for a national press conference. Every camera in the country pointed at him. People watched from phones, shops, and offices. He stood behind a wooden podium and began to speak. They say, I have stolen your gold. But I ask you, where would I hide it? In my shoes, in my pockets. The gold is not mine. It belongs to you, the people of Burkina Faso. They say we will go hungry because we chased away thieves. But tell me, did they ever feed you before? Did they ever build your roads, your hospitals? Today I promise you this. The first school built from this gold will carry your name. The first hospital will open its doors to your children. And the first road will lead from our poorest village to our richest land. The people clapped and cheered. Some cried, others knelt in prayer. Even outside the country, many began to doubt the lies. Videos of the speech went viral. Traoré's words touched the hearts of many Africans who had seen their wealth stolen for too long. But the enemies didn't stop. They sent spies. They tried to bribe officials. They even offered money to Tosamian close to the president. That person was Mr. Yakuba, the head of ports. He had served the country for 20 years. One night, he received a call from a foreign number. We'll give you $5 million, the voice said. Just delay the delivery of the gold to the National Bank. Slow things down. Pretend something is broken. Yakuba said nothing and ended the call. But the next morning, he went straight to the president's office. Mr. President, I was offered a bribe. I came here to tell you before the devil whispers in my ear again. President Charles smiled and shook his hand. You have done well, my brother. Your honesty is stronger than gold. Called in the national security team and asked them to track the number. It led to one of the foreign agents involved in the ship. Another arrest was made. To protect the gold, President Traoré ordered the military to escort it personally to the national bank. Trucks with armored guards lined up on the road. Drones flew overhead. People watched with joy as the convoy passed. Some women waved their wrappers in the air. Old men raised their fists. Children shouted, "That's our gold! That's our gold!" And finally, after years of loss, betrayal, and suffering, the wealth of the people was no longer in secret ships or hidden accounts. It was home, but deep in the shadows, more enemies were waiting. They were planning something bigger. They knew they couldn't touch Traoré with lies or bribes. Now they would try something more dangerous. And they'd already found someone very close to him. Night had fallen over Ouagadougou. The streets were quiet. People were asleep, but inside the presidential palace, lights still burned. President Ibrahim Traoré was holding a private meeting with his top advisors. On the table in front of him was a folder labeled Top Secret. Inside were photos and names of the powerful people behind the gold smuggling. Most had already been arrested or exposed, but there was one name that stood out, a name that had not been mentioned before. "Are you sure about this?" the president asked. Captain Soro, standing beside him, nodded slowly. "We confirmed it, sir. The person feeding information to the foreign agents is someone inside this very building." President Traoré leaned back in his chair, his heart heavy. "Who is it?" he asked, so hesitated. Then he opened the folder and pointed. "It's Mr. Karim." The room fell silent.
Oh.
Karim was one of the president's oldest friends. He had served with him during the early days of resistance. He had shared food, slept in the bush, and risked his life beside Traoré. He was now one of the senior advisors. No, Thep proceeded and said, shaking his head, "There must be a mistake." "We thought so too," said Soro. "But we traced several calls, made from his private line. We also found money in a hidden account under his wife's name. Over $2 million. That night, the president couldn't sleep. He walked alone in the palace garden, remembering the struggles he and Karim had shared. Could someone who once fought for justice now be working for the same people they had once called enemies? The next morning, Traoré called Karim to his office. Karim revved with a smile. "You called for me, my brother?" "Yes," Traoré replied calmly. "Sit down," he looked Karim in the eyes. "Are you loyal to me?" Karim nodded. "Always." The president handed him the folder, then explained this. Karim flipped through the pages. His hands trembled. He tried to smile. "This is a lie, Ibrahim. Someone is setting me up." "You were like a brother to me," the president said quietly. "But even brothers must answer to the truth." Security officers walked in and stood behind Karim. "It trusted you," Traoré said. "Not now the people must judge you." Karim was taken away for questioning. The betrayal shocked the country. News spread. Quickly, president's advisor arrested for spying. Some people were angry, others were sad. How can someone so close betray him? One old woman asked on the radio. But President Traoré did not let the pain stop him. He knew the enemies were still watching, waiting for him to fall. Instead of hiding the truth, he faced it openly. He went on television that evening and spoke to the nation. "People, today we learn that not all who sit with us stand for us. But this is not a defeat. This is proof that no one is above the law. Even my friends must answer to justice. If we want a better Burkina Faso, we must clean not only the streets, but also the rooms of power." The people clapped and praised him even more. As the investigation continued, more secrets were uncovered. Karim had passed documents to foreign businessmen, blueprints of gold storage, security codes, and delivery schedules. In return, he received gifts, luxury trips, and promises of power. What the foreign agents didn't know was that Karim had secretly kept a journal. Inside it, he wrote every detail of their plan, including their names. The journal was found by the investigation. Team Captain Soro rushed to the president's office. "Sir, we found it. A book. Karim wrote everything." President Traoré opened the small notebook. Inside were pages of dates, locations, bank names, and even flight numbers. One name appeared again and again: Mr. Delgado, the leader of the foreign group that had smuggled gold from African countries for over 10 years. "This is it," the president said. "We now have what we need to stop this evil once and for all." Meanwhile, in a hidden mansion outside the country, Mr. Delgado was watching the news. He threw his glass across the room. "That foolish African boy has gone too far." One of his men entered the room. "Sir, he has Karim's journal." "The whole plan? It's all in there," Delgado growled. "And we strike now, no more tricks. Call the mercenaries." "Let's finish this. What should we do?" the man asked. "Take out the president." Back in Ouagadougou, President Traoré received another warning. An anonymous message was sent to the National Security Office. It read, "They are planning to unalive you. Be careful." The president was calm but cautious. He called an emergency security meeting. "We must protect the people's dream," he said. "If I fall, let the dream live." Captain Soros stood up. "Sir, we will not let anything happen to you, but we need to act fast." The next morning, a convoy of trucks carried the recovered gold to a new secret location. Extra guards, trained dogs, and hidden drones followed every step. The president changed his route daily and never announced his movements in advance. His office was swept for listening devices. Security was doubled at the palace, but the mercenaries were already in the city, and they had a plan. They would strike during the president's public speech at Independence Square in 3 days' time. They had weapons, they had uniforms, and they had someone on the inside, still unknown. Independence Square in Ouagadougou was filled with people. Men, women, and children came from all parts of the country. Some waved small flags, others held pictures of President Ibrahim Traoré. They were there to celebrate the return of their gold and the promise of a new beginning. Colorful banners were everywhere. Music played loudly. Dancers performed in the center of the crowd. On a large stage, a podium waited for the president. He was expected to speak at noon. But hidden among the crowd were 5 dangerous men, mercenaries, sent by Mr. Delgado. They wore stolen military uniforms and carried weapons in black bags. Their eyes scanned the crowd, looking for the perfect moment. Their mission was clear: take out the president before he speaks. At the same time, in a secure room not far from the square, Captain Soro and his team monitored everything. Drones flew over the area. Security officers moved through the crowd, pretending to be ordinary citizens. One young officer, Private Amadou, noticed something strange. A man in uniform was standing still, not speaking to anyone, and looking around too much. O stepped closer and saw him pressing something in his ear, a communication device. Amadou quickly whispered into his wristwatch, "We have a situation. Possible mercenary." Section C in seconds. 4 undercover agents surrounded the man and grabbed his bag. Inside were a rifle and a map of the square with red marks. They arrested him quietly, without panic. So RO received the update. 1 down, 4 more to go. Meanwhile, President Traoré was inside his armored car, just 5 minutes away. His phone rang. It was Captain Soro. "Sir, we've just stopped one of the attackers. We believe more are hidden in the crowd. I advise we delay the speech." But the president was calm. "No sorrow. If I hide today, the enemies will think they have. 1. Increase security, but I must speak to the people." "Understood, sir." The car continued moving. Back at the square, security teams worked fast. With help from drone footage and hidden cameras, they spotted 2 more mercenaries moving toward the stage. They were arrested before they got close. Then another officer saw one of the attackers climbing the rooftop of a nearby building. He had a sniper rifle. The officer radioed for help, and in minutes, the sniper was taken down and captured. 4 out of 5 were now in custody, but the last one was missing. At exactly 12 o'clock noon, President Traoré stepped onto the stage. The crowd cheered loudly. Some chanted his name. Others shouted, "Africans!" The president raised his hand, smiled, and began to speak. My people, today we celebrate not just gold, but the power of truth. We are rich not only in resources, but in courage. You stood by me, you believed, and now the world knows we will not be robbed anymore. The crowd roared. Our gold is back. Pride is back, and this is just the beginning. Suddenly, a loud sound was heard. The final mercenary had disguised himself as a cameraman. He pulled out an Asmol pistol and aimed at the stage. But before he could shoot, Mariam, the journalist, spotted him and screamed, "Gun!" President Traoré's guards acted fast. They pushed him to the ground as two officers jumped on the attacker and pinned him down. The crowd panicked for a moment, but the threat was quickly controlled. The president stood up, brushed the dust off his suit, and walked back to the microphone. Even now, they try to silence us, but we are not afraid. This land belongs to us, this gold belongs to us, and our future belongs to no one but the people of Burkina Faso. The crowd screamed with joy. Women danced, men cried, some knelt, and thanked God. Later that evening, all 5 mercenaries were shown to the world. The president announced that Mr. Delgado had been tracked and was now under international arrest. Every person involved in the gold smuggling, corruption, and unaliving plans was captured. Justice had won. 1 week later, the first gold-funded project was launched. A big hospital in a poor village. The second was a school for girls in a remote town. More roads were planned. Clean water stations were built. Food programs were expanded. The people saw